of community action agencies. There is a lot to explore in our self-sufficiency simulator, but I'd like to quickly highlight a few features for you to explore. Let's see. Hopefully you can still see this heat map. It's looking a little crazy on my screen, but this overview of Ohio shows how the self-sufficiency standard changes depending on where you live. Higher incomes are needed to meet a family's basic needs in darker colored counties, which tend to be clustered around urban areas like Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. You can change the family composition using the drop-down menus on the right and hover over a county to see what the self-sufficiency wage is for that family. In Hamilton County, one adult caring for one infant and one preschooler would need to earn over $85,000 a year to be self-sufficient. So now I'd like to skip ahead to explore what expenses are included in the self-sufficiency standard. Here, you can explore the various expenses, taxes, and tax credits that make up a family's monthly budget and compare budgets of the same family composition in multiple counties side by side. What stands out to you most here is probably this brightly orange colored band, which represents the estimated childcare cost for one parent with one infant and one preschooler. And I'm going to switch the counties out here just for fun, so you can choose different counties depending on what you're interested in here. But in Hamilton County, monthly childcare costs are over $2,600, while in Vinton County, which is a more rural county, they're about $1,000 less. Proportionally, we can start to see that children or childcare alone makes up 35% of a family's monthly budget for this family living in Hamilton County, and still nearly a third of the budget for that family living in Vinton County. And so I want to wrap up here with just another reminder of why this is so important. In Ohio, more than 73% of women with children under 6 are in the workforce, but the median annual earnings of women employed full-time is just $50,000. In Hamilton County, that falls short of the self-sufficiency standard by about $35,000. So parents are left with some really tough decisions, whether they can afford to work or not, whether they can afford childcare, and how they'll afford to feed and house their families. But there are some policy considerations that could help families, and we have some fantastic folks here to tell us more about what solutions there are. And so I'd like to turn things over to Dean Woodring, Executive Director of Horsey for Children, who will speak more specifically about our current regional childcare needs and how the state budget is addressing them. Dean Woodring, thanks so much.
Thank you, Travis, for that incredible overview. Can everyone hear me? Great. Well, I love that self-sufficiency, the language of self-sufficiency. It's something I think we can all really relate to, right? So I'm a mom. I've been a working mom for 21 years. We have our own experience with childcare, and our kids were cared for in home by a relative. Who we paid, but who we paid under market rate to. And we were really grateful for that support. The kids got to be raised by a grandma. The grandma still had an income stream, and we worked together as a family to work that out. But as we know, that's not available for very many people, if even, the people who need it the most, right? So here's some things to think about. When we're thinking about what is the childcare policy landscape in Ohio and what the major reforms in the state's 26-27 budget have been, I think it's important for all of us to think about what are the main messages that can be really effective with advocacy in the state. And so number one, childcare, we found this to be an effective line. It's not the only one, but childcare is a workforce issue, as Travis was just explaining. And it's frankly one of the biggest reasons why employees are absent or leave their careers entirely. So we think about, somebody might have to miss out on hours of work, but when faced with these incredible costs, many, many families choose for one of the parents to just stay home, which can have a devastating lifetime effect and impact on a career. And that's financial, of course, but it can also be emotional. It can be professional. These things can be really big. And of course, like we've got these kids, we love these kids, but many families are having to make these hard choices, which frankly just don't feel fair. So first and foremost, when we're talking about advocacy, we're talking about childcare as a workforce issue. Second, though, there's this sort of like ethical component and the community component, which is, hey, every child deserves quality early care and quality early care education. And so that is where we get into what's our responsibility to each other as neighbors, as a community, as a voting civic elected, elective body, right? And we are the people who should be able to inform these policies, and every kid deserves the best. One of the reasons why we talk so much about early child care is because these years really matter, right? So we've got tons and tons of research on this. So 80% of a child's brain, of our brains, were developed by the time we were by three. 90% of our brains were developed by the time we were 5. And so my career happens to have been, for the most part, in secondary education. I had some amazing, wonderful experiences working with kiddos who are 15 to 18 years old. But man, if we can get it right at 0 to 3 and at 0 to 5, then we can do something. And we've got Nobel Prize winning economists who have backed this up, right? Every public dollar spent on early child care pays back better than almost any other investment we can make. So that's sort of like the house of our story, right? Those are the topics that we tend to think about when we talk about policy and advocacy. So I am very fortunate to have joined 4C for Children, which is part of the whole ecosystem of childcare in America. So about 50 years ago, just after the war on poverty, organizations like Head Start came along, where my colleague Renee Daniels, which she'll talk about, but each state developed a system of child care resource and referral agencies, CCR&Rs. And so when your policymakers are thinking about childcare, the government-based system to support that are these CCR&Rs. And that's what 4C for Children does here in the greater Cincinnati area. And Kentucky has its own sort of statewide CCR&R. I believe I have that correct. And so we do a bunch of stuff, but one of the things that we do is we operate as a referral agency, and we connect families to care. So one thing that's really important for our communities to know about, and for parents to know about, is that CCRs are here to serve them at no cost. So any family can contact any CCR&R anywhere in the country, and they can be put in touch with childcare facilities. And frankly, what that means is, where are the seats, where are they located geographically, and how can I get access to them? So that's a really important thing to know. We also provide resources, which could be helping people get vouchers. There's an enormous amount of paperwork that goes into getting public funds. And so we are here to help them with that, as is any CCR&R. We point families in the direction of various cost reduction opportunities and any other services that are available to them. So it's really important. We want to take some of the burden and financial burden, if we can, and certainly social support burden, off the shoulders of families as they need it. And then along with all of that, we help support quality, right? So childcare is not just about babysitting. This is early education. That goes back to that 80% of brain development by 3 and 90% brain development by 5. And we have a whole fleet of coaches, as does every CCR&R, that goes out there and provide and helps our providers give that great quality and just continuously think about improving the quality of education for our little ones. So that's, in a perfect world, how everything would work. And that system would be fully funded and everybody would have what they need. But there is, in fact, a childcare crisis in our region. At best, the system is under pressure. And for too many families, providers, and children, that system's actually broken. Listen, we have a lot of people working on this. Many of us are on this call today, but this is where we need community advocacy and support. Childcare still is one of those rare bipartisan issues that everybody wants to work on, because we know how much it matters. People want children to grow up and thrive. You don't usually have a very difficult time convincing people of that. So that's kind of what I'm gonna spend the last couple minutes that I have talking about. So there have been some new provisions in the budget. I just want to educate us a little bit on that. One is for the workforce, there's the Child Care Cred program. This is sometimes known as a tri-share model. In Ohio, it's a 40-40-20 split. In a perfect world, the employer would pick up 40% of childcare costs, the parents would pick up 40% of the childcare costs, and the state would pick up 20%. We were actually part of the pilot, as were several of our CCR and our colleagues in Ohio, to get this started. And frankly, it was challenging. Right now, the way the bill is functioning is that there are some limits, right? So they need to be Ohio-based companies, which means any company that's headquartered in another state can't really be eligible for it. It ends in June 26th, but we can apply all the way up till May 26th. So there's just some quirks and things in there. So getting that particular provision to work really well and to work out some of the kinks would be a phenomenal gift to families. I think it would strengthen the state and the workforce and all that good stuff. You can learn more about that in the one sheet I'm going to share with Rajani at the end of this. For families, there are lots of ways to qualify for funding. So in Cincinnati, we know about Cincinnati Preschool Promise. We hope everybody goes out and votes. But we also have something called Childcare Choice, which fills the gap for families who might qualify for vouchers on the lower end, all the way up to 200% of the poverty rate. So if you're a family and you're living in at the poverty rate, or I believe up to 145% above that, or 45% above that, you would be eligible for vouchers. And again, that's something that you can look for online, or we can help support you. And then there's a gap there between 145% and 200%, which makes it really challenging. That's where the child care choice dollars come in. So that's another thing you can advocate. Continue those dollars, strengthen those dollars, make it less difficult for families to figure out how to access those dollars. That's all good. Now, on the provider side, I definitely heard that $85,000, $86,000 figure that came up with self-sufficiency. Our family care providers, our child care providers generally do not themselves even make that. In fact, the average starting dollar, depending on where you are in Ohio, is anywhere between $12 and $15 an hour. Now, that doesn't mean that you're always going to stuck there. There's a really vibrant pathway as a child care provider. So we don't want to scare people away with that entry rate, but the fact is the entry rate is really low. Recently, 4C for Children was affected by these policy changes, as were all the CCR&Rs in Ohio. We had a 10% cut from DCY. That means we have less staff in the field to reach our most at-risk families. We have fewer incentives to create more seats. We have sharpened our tools on quality and coaching. We've got human feet on the ground, but we need to continued support for that as well. We love innovation. We love piloting programs. We want to test the waters to see what works and what doesn't. So that's where, another thing that we can do on our end to help advocate. What y'all can do, what our citizenry can do to help advocate for childcare reform in Ohio is to contact your electeds, contact philanthropic resources, and I've got sort of a cheat sheet on how to do that, but it's really worthwhile to think about who's in your neighborhood council, who's in your city council, who's your mayor, who is the local representative at the state house, right? So, for example, Andrea White is a Republican representative. She happens to chair the Children in Workforce or the Children and Youth Committee. That's a fantastic person to connect with. And these electeds, their whole job is to meet with their constituents. And for the most part, they really do. So reach out to them. You're going to get some contact information from Rajani. And just think about how your voice can really matter, because it absolutely can do. So we're here to support, to help, and to inform. And my job was to kind of walk you through some of the state level resources, and I'm going to hand it off to my dear friend, Renee Daniel, who is Director of Head Start. So Renee, take it away.
I think Representative Hagrid is here.
Okay.
Shall we let her go
I'm
first?
here.
Because I know
Yes.
she has time constraints. So, okay, I'll let her go first. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Representative Hebron.
Thank you, Samara.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
You're on. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I am State Representative Samira Hebron from Kentucky. I chair Families and Children Committee, and I've served on that committee for the last 3 years. We actually separated the committee. It used to be Health and Family Services, but we really felt that it was important for us to have a committee specifically for families and children. And so the reason I say I got the chairmanship was because of my interest in all the legislation I've worked on, whether it be adoption leave for families, childcare. In 2022, I really started on childcare and figuring out how, after COVID, so many people were talking about how people weren't going back to work. And, whether that was from stimulus checks or unemployment or, other barriers, I felt like it was more to it than just that. And so I recognized that childcare was a huge barrier for a lot of families needing to go back to work, specifically moms that had to leave the workforce during COVID. And so that's how I got into childcare. Was just trying to help figure out what that looked like. And so it's been a big overtaking. We continue to work on it. In 2026, we've got a big bill coming out of what that looks like. And I didn't know, am I just speaking? Or are you all asking questions?
You're just speaking.
Okay, perfect.
We'll take questions at the end.
Okay, no problem at all.
You. Okay,
So kind of what I want to share about 2026, and I think one of the biggest things is in 2024 during the last budget session, no one could agree on what needed to be done in Kentucky. I would have groups contact me and say, we need $300 million to solve childcare, or I need $100 million to solve childcare, and no one could come up with a consensus. And so I partnered with our Kentucky State Chamber to come up with a working group, and it was over a 40-person working group from everywhere, no matter from far right, far left, in the center. And it was a group to figure out what we do for childcare. And I'm incredibly grateful for their investment and time and money and being able to come up with this. The Novak family actually funded Convergence to come in and come up with this. And so the 2026 legislation and budget request comes from this group. And so what those focus on are supporting and promoting quality, streamlining regulations, supporting working families, strengthening the childcare workforce, improving childcare data, encouraging community engagement, and encouraging employer engagement. 2 years ago, we tried to pass a bill that would create childcare ready communities, and it would encourage seeing just some of the issues that were going on. For example, a lot of times childcare centers can't be created because of local zoning ordinances or land use policies. And so kind of getting cities and counties involved, making sure that they weren't prohibiting childcare centers from starting just because of their local land use policies. And so unfortunately, it was signed into law, but the governor has not implemented it yet. So we're still trying to figure that out. So we're hoping with this 2026 legislation, we can get that started again. Something really big we did here in Kentucky is what we call ECAP, Employee Child Care Assistance Program. And we've been working really diligently to get that up and off the ground. 2 years ago or last year, we finally made it a program that would stay. It was considered a pilot program, and now it's in statute. And so what that does is if you're an employee and you want to offer, or if you're an employer and you want to offer your employee $500 a month for childcare expenses, it's a try share. And so, say you want to get $500. If the person makes less than the state median income, they get 100% match from the state. So then that would be $500 from the state. And then whatever left over would be up to the employee to pay. But it's a partnership with childcare facilities. And really, it's a generational conversation. I think the biggest thing is my generation wants a little different. You know, like we're not necessarily looking for a pension, and that's not a bad thing. And you know, I think we're looking for a little more different type of benefit that employers can give. And so this just adds an extra tool in the toolbox for retention, an extra tool in the toolbox for retention. And so we are still trying to work. The current administration has not done a great job of getting that off the ground. And so what we're hoping is we're trying to talk about privatizing that and getting ECAP to be run privately. So then they really have the time to go and talk to employers about it and share it all across the state and market it because it really is a great benefit. And a lot of states have used that as an example. And then I'm trying to think. What else? So one thing that I was asked to do is talk about how we advocate and how people in Northern Kentucky need to advocate if childcare is important to you. Talk to your state legislators. I think the dean before me was talking about that of having, you know, talking to your state legislators. It's so important. We were in a committee meeting a few months 2 months ago, and there was a Northern Kentucky legislator that said, you know, women in my district stay at home, and why should we be paying for, why should taxpayers be paying for someone else's child care? And I was like, well, you know, I kind of lost it. And I just shared, you know, that's not, you know, we're trying to help middle class families. You know, we've got CCAP in Kentucky, and I think everyone else does too. That helps lower income families, but middle income families are really struggling with childcare. And if people want to go to work, especially single mothers, why wouldn't we offer that? And so don't assume because you believe a certain way that your state legislator would too. And so, you know, especially let them know how you feel and how important it is. And after the meeting, I actually had one of my staffers come up to me and say, you know, I'm their constituent and I agree with you. Like, I really appreciate all the work you're putting into this. And so let them know how important it is. And we're not raising taxes for this in Kentucky or anything like that. It's the importance of being able to talk to people and say, hey, we can't find workers. This can help get people back to work because that's better for everybody. And there's a lot of opportunity there. And so just have that relationship with your legislator, whether you're a childcare provider or a business owner. Have those conversations and let them know, because I think that's the most important thing you can do. I'm doing my work here in Frankfort, meeting with all the different legislators and trying to educate them on what this is, like what we're doing with childcare. And I need everyone's help to be able to get this bill passed. And so if, you know, that's kind of my spiel, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone would have.
We're going to take questions at the end. So if you don't mind staying with us, we will go until 1 o'clock. If not, and you can't stay, we'll take questions for you and then we'll just send them to you later on. And you can provide answers, or one of your staffers can. Would that work for you?
Yeah, that's perfect. I have to actually go I have to go help. We have a family and children meeting at 1. So I will have to get off, but if there are any questions, please let me know. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk. And if you need help connecting with your legislator, don't hesitate to let me know.
Thank you, Representative Heverin, and Tammy Wilson will be in touch with your staffers with questions if there are any. Thank you, appreciate it. We're going to move on to Renee.
Can everyone hear me? Okay,
Yes.
Great. Hi, I'm Renee Daniel, and I am the Vice President of Early Childhood for the Community Action Agency. And we provide Head Start services for the greater Cincinnati area. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Head Start, and I'm going to tell you about a crisis that we're facing right now. Head Start is a federally funded program, and we get all of our funding federal to local. So there's no state in between. It's a federal to local program. And we provide childcare services for our community's most vulnerable children and families. It's a comprehensive program. It's 60 years old. We've been around since 1965, and we've been doing, our agency has been providing early childhood services for pregnant women, infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. We partner with lots of childcare programs within the greater Cincinnati area, and we also fund Cincinnati Public Schools for preschool, and we also fund the University of Cincinnati for preschool as well. So that's just it in a nutshell. Right now, with the government shutdown, and I will say Head Start is one of the few programs that has bipartisan support. Right now, with the government shutdown, we have 8 programs in the state of Ohio that are due not to get funding come November 1. I get emotional about talking about this because it's really gonna affect almost 3,000 children, 920 staff members. And so, when we talk about advocacy is, calling your representative in the federal level, and I provided the foundation with some information about how you can get a hold of those individuals, as well as your senators. And making sure that you are a registered voter and keeping those things in the forefront. Childcare is so important to so many people. The other thing I think about, with the government shutdown is also the federal poverty guidelines. Those guidelines determine whether or not a family can receive Head Start services. So if you're a family of 3 and you make $26,000 a year, you're not eligible for Head Start services. And so our federal poverty guidelines have been around since 1970 and they have not changed. So I think that can help a lot of people if we could change those federal poverty guidelines and support more families being a part of the Head Start program. When we talk about childcare, one of the things that we are all faced with is staffing and finding qualified staff to support the growth and development of children. So we have all of these things going on that parent tuition cannot pay. And so we really need to work with our legislators for them to truly understand the true cost of quality and what that means. I know that there's probably lots of questions, but right now I think the crisis that we're having is the government shutdown and the number of programs that will be affected if we do not get the government open back up by November 1. There is a program within our county that has a November 1 date, and we are working diligently with them to just make sure that they're okay. But they will have to close their doors, and that will affect children. And so I'm asking all of you to make a call to your congressman and just say we need to get the government back open so that we can serve children and families. I have sent, like I said, I sent some information about how you can do that. I've also sent a sample letter that you can use if that's something that you're interested in doing. I think my time is up, so.
No, your time is not up. Your time is
Oh,
not up. You can
okay,
go on. No,
okay.
I just showed my face to say, yes, I have all the resources and I'll be sending all of that out to every attendee after the webinar. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we have any questions that I can answer?
Are there any questions right now? Okay, so there's one here. It's from Patty Nagelkirk. Renee mentioned 8 programs at risk November 1. Are those 8 all in Hamilton County?
No, they're not. They're not all in Hamilton County. They are across the state of Ohio. We do have one program in Hamilton County that is at risk.
Okay. There's another one, and the next question is, can you share what program in Hamilton County will be affected?
I really don't want to do that because I'm not sure how they are communicating this information to their families and to their staff.
Okay. Anything else that you're seeing? I'm not seeing anything else right now. If you have more information to share, you can, Renee. Okay, but can you say how many kids might be impacted in Hamilton County? She says.
I'm sorry.
There's a question about whether you can share how many kids will be impacted in Hamilton County.
Probably about 500 children will be impacted, along with maybe 35 to 40 staff members.
Okay. She says, thank you. Oh, someone's asking, do you need volunteers for anything?
We can always use volunteers, and my contact information is available. And we do have someone who works with our volunteers, and yes, we can always use volunteers.
I think that's it. I don't see any other questions coming in right now.
And I will say this is not one of my happy places, talking in front of people, but I'm working on it. But Head Start is just a vibrant part of the community. Half of the grant that we receive goes back out into the community. And, I can't stress that enough, even for, programs that are smaller than ours. Half of the grant goes back into the community. And we are required by the Office of Head Start to do program in kind. So when you talk about volunteering, for every dollar we receive from the federal government, we have to match it with 25 cents. So if you're interested in volunteering, please feel free to reach out to me, and we will see what we can have you do. And we would definitely look forward to that, because that helps us with our federal match.
Our friends at the Northern Kentucky Chamber just said they will send us a full list of the Northern Kentucky Legislative Caucus, and is asking that if you can, please contact your local state rep and state senator on this important issue.
Childcare is an issue for all of us. I mean, whether you have children or not, our economy is run on the backs of teachers, and we have got to change the way we look at our children and how we support them early on in their life.
Anybody else have questions for Renee or Dean or Travis? And if you have questions for Samara Heverin, please let us know, and we will pass that along to her office. This is great. I think we ran early. We finished. I was afraid we would run over, but we didn't, which is great. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to LaTanya Springs, who is the chair of the Appointed in Motion alumni group, and she is going to speak for 2 seconds here. LaTanya, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just,
You might
Can-
need to turn
can you
on
hear
your
me?
camera.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I just wanted to say thank you to our incredible panelists for sharing their time, expertise, and heartfelt insights today. Each of you has given us a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities in childcare. If there's one message to take away today, is that childcare isn't just a service. It's the foundation of our economy, our families, and our future. Investing in our caregivers and educators means investing in our children's potential. This was the first Women's Fund Appointed in Motion speaker series. And if you have any other topics of concern or interest, please reach out to Reggie, and we will work on including those topics in our future speaker series. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out today.
And before we get off, I just want to say thank you so much. I never dreamt we would have 44 people. I took a picture of that number because we have 44 people calling in to this webinar. I never expected that. This was just something I did for a lark. Thank you so much for all the wonderful, wonderful insights. If you have comments, please write to me, let me know. And I will see you all again soon. Let me know if there's another topic you would like me to set up a webinar on, and we will do that next. Okay, thank you. Have a good afternoon.